Hi, I'm Neeraj Singh. I'm co-founder of Xaults. So Xaults is building a next-generation financial infrastructure, leveraging digital currencies and real-world tokenized assets, and imagining what future of finance could look like. Uh, why we started Xaults was because we spotted some early institutional movement towards tokenization of real-world assets, right? And also economies, we are seeing now more and more adoption or a move towards real-world asset tokenization. But what we also figured that institutions, the current financial systems that they have, they are not interoperable with these new generation of asset classes, which I just mentioned. So we saw an opportunity to build a new kind of market infrastructure which will allow these financial institutions such as banks to merge these two and create new kind of innovative products on top. And that's what we are trying to build. I mean, this could be answered in two parts. One is at the technology level, and then on the product, the kind of impact that we are trying to bring. So talking on the product part first, one of the first problems that we are trying to solve is access to finance for SMEs, right? Historically, SMEs in supply chain have been ignored, or they have not been granted access to formal credit by the banks because banks categorize them as very high risk, right? Through our model, what we have been able to do is we have been able to tokenize or securitize the payables of a large OEM like Reliance, and those payables are now they now act as tradable assets or securities. They flow across the entire supply chain, giving SMEs access to an asset class against which they can take a formal credit from the bank at much lower costs, right? This we demonstrated it in RBI regulatory sandbox, because in India right now the tokenization guidelines are missing. We successfully got the exit in August this year. We had HDFC, ICICI, Yes Bank on board. The impact that it can bring in India is systematically solving for the access to credit for SMEs, right, which is a very large problem in India and in all developing countries, right? Another thing that we are trying to build with SEBI is, can we bring tokenization into the capital markets, right? And can we offer fractional ownership to the retail users, where they can participate in the market at a much lower cost? And at the same time, can we bring operational efficiency into the market? Can we make our markets globally interoperable with this new technology, right? So that's on the impact. But on the technology side, what we have built, right? So this technology have existed for almost 10-15 years now. But what we saw missing was an enterprise specific infrastructure that can enable these regulated institutions to experiment with this, right? The enterprise blockchains that existed, they were not very flexible, and also they were not capable enough to handle the scale at which Indian markets operate. So that's why we developed our own enterprise blockchain, which is highly flexible and also can handle the scale at which the market operates. See, again, on the technology side, I don't believe any enterprise software cannot be replicated. I think technology is not a moat anymore in software business. But I think the ecosystem that we have created in the last 3 years of our operation, those strategic partnerships that allows us to penetrate into the banking ecosystem and then also go into the SME ecosystem is something that is going to be difficult for other players to create, to penetrate into. So I believe the ecosystem is something very unique to us, and because we heavily work with regulators, all our products are India's first attempt to building all of this. Right now we are dealing with data privacy, where we are working on zero knowledge proofs, which is a very new concept. Only few organizations have rolled out some enterprise use cases. So this is something that we are working on. This is also it's evolving at a very fast pace. So I think this is something, zero knowledge proofs, where it allows you to share data confidentially without exposing your data, is something that we are working on, and it's challenging for us, and I think it's at the pace it is evolving, it's going to be challenging for the next couple of years as well. So me and my co-founder Shobham, we know each other from almost 18 years now. We did our bachelor's together 2006 to 2010, Kurukshetra University. So we were same class, same hostel. We have traveled quite a bit together. We have also been flatmates. Long history. Both of us got excited about the space at the same time, and that's why we started to build together. He's highly technical. He was a acting CTO in an AI company in Singapore. Before that, he has developed games with Zynga, which are some of the very famous games like Zynga Poker, Farmville 2. The rest of the team, our founding engineers, they also come from great experience, which is a mix of startup and the enterprise world. They were the first, like one of the first cryptocurrency exchanges which was set up in India. They were in the founding teams. They then built something which got acquired by AskMe. So they worked in AskMe as well. And when we hired them from Zomato, where they were building enterprise systems which can handle a lot of scale. So I think the kind of experience that we have in the team, from handling tech to my experience in handling large enterprises in their digital transformation journey, we have the right mix to kind of do what we are trying to do. Right. So the RBI regulatory sandbox, where we developed Deep-tier supply chain finance, is a recent use case. We got the successful exit in August this year. With HDFC, ICICI, and Yes Bank, what we tried to solve for is how can we give access to credit to an SME who is part of a long supply chain but is not directly selling to a large corporate. The experiment was successful. We were able to disperse 100 loans, and we were able to systematically bring down the cost of financing for that SME at 30 to 40% lower than what he's currently getting. At the same time, we were able to enable banks to offer onboard new customers which they were not able to onboard, and also help them increase their CASA and liabilities both. In the next 3 years, first thing that we want to do is expand to international trade finance and capture the APAC region, typically looking at the Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, Vietnam corridor, also India-Singapore corridor. We want to scale that business significantly. We also want to operationalize the Indian capital markets tokenization that we have envisioned with the regulator, and we want equities to be tokenized so that the access to equities or blue chip equities to the common man at a fraction of cost is realized. And we want to also make it scale to at least 10% of what the Indian market does currently. And then we want to experiment with other markets overseas like UK and US. Right. Because we take a traditional financial model and just plug in the digital assets, the KYC, the KYB process largely remains the same. So we don't touch that. The kind of assets that we are tokenizing are typically something that is currently used in the ecosystem. So for an example, the invoice financing that I mentioned, the invoices are used for extending credit to a direct supplier of Reliance, for an example. But when I tokenize it, I can now use the same invoice and distribute it into the entire supply chain, right? So that is something that I would tokenize. So I would tokenize something that is of value, and if I break it down, a larger ecosystem can be benefited. Right? So invoice is an example. I think real estate is going to be another example, but we are not into the real estate industry. The thing that we are looking at is the Indian capital market. So corporate bonds, equities, gold receipts is something that we will work on. I think with any new technology, it has to be a joint effort or a collaborative effort between everyone, right? So The regulator might bring in regulation, but if the industry is not ready to pick it up, the product would fail, right? But if the industry is demanding it and the regulator is not allowing it, again it will fail. So that's why when we work on such new or industry first products, we go to the industry, we go to the regulator, we go to the user, and then we create a joint group which can together work on what will work as a product. So I think everything is equally important at this stage. Right, because we have created an enterprise blockchain. It's not a decentralized ledger. The security aspects remain the same. So you do your VAPT, you do your security testing, penetration testing. All of those things remain the same. Smart contracts is something new. Again, where there are a few companies which exist that can audit your smart contracts. But because we have experts who have been building smart contracts from a very long time, we take care of the security and how to write the contracts that that are not vulnerable and cannot be exploited. So that's how I think the inspiring stories that we are listening to, it gives you courage to think big, and tackle large scale problems, and your vision that you are trying to build, for the future. And the industry connections again within the Reliance Group, an opportunity to work with some of the amazing leaders here. I think that's the biggest value add for us.